Chapter 217 and 218, The Mediterranean and the Path Towards True Wisdom. Childhood of Jesus, Gospel of James, spoken by Pascal. Chapter 217, Why the Middle Sea can be rightly called the Mediterranean, for the true center is there where the Lord is. As all had eaten their fill of the cold fish, they got up, thanked Joseph for this good meal, and then went outside, for the sun had not yet fully set. When most of the guests from Cyrenius' entourage were outside, the infant spoke to him. "Cyrenius, do you not remember anymore what you asked me outside at the scene of the fire, when I praised the fish of the Mediterranean as being good and delicious?" Cyrenius thought about it a little, but did not recall his question. He therefore spoke to the infant. "Oh, you, my lord, my life, forgive me, for I must confess that I have completely forgotten it." Here the infant smiled again, and most kindly said to the somewhat embarrassed Cyrenius, "Did you not ask whether the Mediterranean is really at the center of the earth? I advised you to look this up on the small globe, so that you convince yourself whether this sea is really at the center of the earth. Look, now is the best possible time to settle this matter. Therefore, hold the small globe and get the answer to your question." And Cyrenius spoke. "Yes, on my poor soul, I would have completely forgotten this, if you, O Lord, had not reminded me of it." Here James immediately jumped up and brought the small globe to Cyrenius. Cyrenius then searched for the Mediterranean and soon found it. As he indicated the Mediterranean with his finger, the infant asked him, "Cyrenius, is that really at the center of the earth? Or how do you see the matter?" And Cyrenius spoke. "I am quite proficient at figures, according to Euclid and Ptolemy, Lagus king in Egypt, and therefore know from planimetry that on the surface of the globe, any given point can be the center of the surface. For firstly, it is exactly as far from the central point of the globe as every other point, and because all the outgoing lines up to its antipode are of the same curvature and length. According to this axiom, this sea can be called the Mediterranean. However, I also find that every sea exists under the same conditions and can be called Mediterranean just as well." And the infant spoke. "You are undoubtedly right, but nevertheless, the Euclidean principles do not apply here, and this sea still may be exclusively called the Mediterranean, for the true center is there where the Lord is. See, the Lord is now at this sea, and therefore the middle of the sea is also here. See, this is another calculation which Euclid could not have even dreamt of, and it is more correct than his." This explanation sparked Cyrenius' interest strongly, and he continued to study it. Chapter 218, All that is has its divinely ordained time and order, time and eternity, from futile research into divine depths, and from childlike simplicity as the path towards true wisdom. The infant remarked to Cyrenius, who had begun to get involved in further studies of the globe. "Cyrenius, you are making further investigations in vain. I gave you a finger, and you immediately want the whole hand. Look, that is not possible, for everything has its time and its fixed and unchangeable order. If you see a tree in bloom, you surely also want the ripe fruit. But see, this is not possible, for every tree has its own time and order. However, the time and the order is from me, from eternity, and I cannot go against myself. and nothing can be taken away from time and from order. Although I really love you with all the fullness of my divine power, I cannot give you even a minute of transient time. For this must continue to flow as a river, and is unstoppable and has no rest until it has reached the great shore of the unchangeable eternity. Therefore, your further investigation into my depths is somewhat futile, for until the time is right, you will not come closer to my depths, even by a hair's breadth, through such methods. Hence, desist from such investigations, and do not exert your mind uselessly, for at the right time, all will be freely yours from me. You now want to comprehend in depth as to why the center is where I am. However, I say to you, you cannot understand such things now. Therefore, you should, for the time being, have faith, and prove the true humility of your spirit by this faith. Only when your spirit has first reached the proper depths through true humility, you will, from this depth, get a clear insight into my depths. But if you want to raise your spirit through inquiries, then it will increasingly forsake its living depths, and you will thereby distance yourself from my depths, instead of coming nearer to them. Yes, I also tell you, from now on, all deep wisdom will be concealed from the wise persons of the world, but it will be put in the hearts of those who are simple-minded, the weak children and orphans. Therefore, become like a child in spirit. Then it will be the right time for you to receive the right wisdom. Cyrenius was greatly astonished at this doctrine, and then asked the infant, saying, "Yes, if that is the case, then no man should ever learn to read or write. For if you freely give all this to those who are worthy of it, then why should one take the trouble of laborious studies?" And the infant spoke, "The field of wisdom is fertilized through right and humble study, and that is also according to my order. However, you must not regard study as a purpose for wisdom, but only as a means. When the field is fertilized, then I will scatter the seeds. Only then can the right wisdom germinate. Do you understand this?" Here Cyrenius remained silent, and did not probe further.